Well, so you just saw a little montage of my morning in Portsmouth. I actually recorded quite a bit of video while I was wandering the neighborhood. You know, me talking to camera, trying to, well, make sense of things. And after reviewing it all, I realized that virtually none of it was worth keeping. It was rambling, distracted, perhaps a little hungry. So after taking a few snaps with the Fuji and the iPhone, I did what just about any reasonable travel vlogger does when the words aren't coming. I went off in search of a French pastry and a strong cup of coffee. Alright, got a recommendation for a breakfast place from a guy at the hotel here called Elephantine. The guy was trained in France. A little pastry action. Let's check it out. Tried unsuccessfully to record for the last hour. Every time I come around a corner, a little cobblestone alley, I pick up this thing, somebody's coming around the other way. Somebody's coming behind me. I'm going back to the room to grab my stuff and bust out of here. I'll finish the story inside. I got so sidetracked here. Finally! Gosh, I really wanted to do a little vlogging in this city, walk around and yeah, there was just people everywhere. For early Monday morning, I was surprised. So, first thing, I pulled into this, is a little French place called Elephant, name here. It was really good. The guy recommended I go there. It's the guy was classically trained in France, in Paris, I guess, and the food was fantastic. They had the typical French chairs, the little tables sitting outside, or to sit outside, in a little alleyway with brick and vines, and it's cool here. Oh my gosh, if I had a place like that next door to where I lived in Florida, which I do, it's just cool here, and I like sitting outside. And it's 1,000 degrees in Florida. Anyway, this couple sat next to me, and young couple. They weren't a couple though. They were a couple, I don't know, they were like late 20s. New parents. They were talking about their kids. But they seemed to be, first of all, they seemed to be flirting with each other. And he was talking about his wife. She was talking about her husband. They were talking about daycare. They mentioned their kids. One was like 6 months old. The other one was 7. They were comparing daycares. But then they kind of launched into how they're so happy to get back to real life, and they appreciate the weekends, but they love dropping their kid off. And one was bitching that daycare is only open until 5:30. The other one was complaining about cleaning up after the kid on the weekends. And I was like, oh my God. what are you doing, man? And again, I don't claim to be the most perfect person, and certainly not the most perfect parent. And we're all not perfect. But I just wanted to look over at him and just scream at him, like, look, this moment is a moment that you're gonna wish you had again in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, in 24 years. Take it from experience. Don't wish this away. And God, the way they were kind of bashing their spouses, it's like, God, I don't know. Maybe they were cheating on them and that was a little breakfast date. I don't know the story, but it was kind of, I had to get out of there. I couldn't, they were French, so there's like, the tables are this close, so they're like right here. And just blah, 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 screaming in my ear about how, they weren't screaming, they were just like dancing around the issue, and I just wanted to look and say, what are you guys doing? Go home to your kid. Get your kid out of daycare. 6 months? First of all, okay, is it for work that you drop the kid off at daycare? Well, what are you doing at a French breakfast place at 10:30? Are you working? Alright, that's my rant. Time to get out of here. By the way, I found the script here. I put it together over a year ago. I was actually pretty excited about this. This was one of my first attempts at actually using ChatGPT to help me craft an episode outline. I had notes, segments, opening lines, shot lists, interesting people to view. I thought it'd be this guy, filming poetic transitions, reflecting at just the right moments, wrapping every episode up with a bow. And then I arrived on site, and honestly, I never even looked at the plan. The script that got me excited to film in the first place. The title was Portsmouth, New Hampshire, a seaport with stories to tell. I guess I got caught up in the motion and finding a place to sleep, charging batteries, making it to the next stop. Some days I filmed too much, other days almost nothing. And now I'm here, almost a year later, trying to piece together a story from a few photographs and some clips that I honestly barely remember taking. It's a pretty good script, by the way. Anyway, this morning I've got some nice photos from Portsmouth, New Hampshire. A little video of me wandering around talking to myself, and honestly, like I said, none of it was that interesting. So I started the episode with a photo montage, just to give you a feeling of the place. It's one of the things that I'm trying to do when I travel these states is to really focus on photography. So I'm going to try to do a little more sharing of that in this episode here. Sometimes the place is the story, even if I don't know it at the time. I don't know. I wrote all this stuff down before I ever left home, and somewhere along the way, I stopped paying attention to it. I stopped thinking so much about why I was doing this, and I guess I just did it. Well, here's what I know now. I started this because I turned 60, and I didn't want to spend the next chapter of my life just kind of standing still. I'd spent 4 decades laser focused, building a business, traveling quite a bit, in the summers anyway, but for the most part, staying in one place. I needed something to move me, a new creative project to focus on, and that's what 50 at 60 was. Kind of a sabbatical. It's 60, if that's even possible. That's why I call this journey 50 at 60. I didn't want to just see America. I wanted to feel it.
From parking lots to mountain passes, from motel lobbies to state park trails. And yeah, sometimes from the front seat of a rental car with a camera rolling, while I, of course, talk to myself. So that's what this episode is. Just a little wander through a few main towns, a bit of road, and a few thoughts. And hopefully, something in there reminds you that it's okay if the story, well, doesn't go exactly to plan. Maybe the best parts come in the quiet, in the blur, or in a script that you've forgotten to follow.
Here in town, and had about 50 or 60 buildings in this brewery, which was sort of in that direction. But he was also so much more than just a brewer.
Well, before heading north, I decided to sneak in a short walking tour I saw advertised that might actually teach me a bit about this cute little town that I barely met. Founded in 1623, Portsmouth was once a shipbuilding powerhouse and one of the busiest ports in colonial America. Today, those old brick buildings and narrow streets whisper stories from another era. If you're willing to slow down and listen, of course. It's the kind of place where you can stumble across a 300-year-old house just down the block from a boutique coffee shop, or find Revolutionary War history carved into a wall you almost walked right past. Quiet, walkable, and beautifully worn in. Portsmouth feels like a well-read book that you didn't know you wanted to reread. Our tour guide for this walk was a retired doctor and really full of knowledge. A part of me really wanted to interview him for this episode, as he was just the kind of person that I'm really interested in. You know, someone making a massive pivot moment in their life. But, of course, I didn't. I guess there's always next time.
All right, well, that was an extremely entertaining walk. I'm glad I went on it. The guy's name was Newt, I think. He was originally born in, where was he born? Norway. His family came from Norway. He was a physician at one point. And very knowledgeable. I don't know how he maintained and remembered all this information. He had a little book was showing us pictures of the history. This town has gone through its cycles, its ups and downs. I was just talking to him right before I headed to the car, and I says, this looks like this town is really kind of on an upswing. And he goes, well, it is now. But as you know, we've gone through our cycles. They've had 3 major fires down here. There's so much stuff that he talked about. I'm really glad I went on this. I saw a lot more of the town than I thought I would have, or that I had I just wandered around myself. And of course, learned a ton. Walking tours, I highly recommend them if you are in a town like this. It's got a ton of history, an immense amount of history. There was one little point he talked about that they actually think that the Revolutionary War kind of started here based on a couple of things that happened. So, I don't know. There was a lot of rumors in there, a lot of... it has a torrid past, too. There was a couple of... Well, whatever. I don't want to get into all the details. I'm going to consider this the part 1 of the New Hampshire vlog, because in about 10 minutes, I'm going to be over the bridge and into Maine. So we're going to pick up... I'm going to switch gears here. I think I did this with Massachusetts as well. We're going to head over to Maine, so I'll see you in a couple of days on this for the rest of this journey through New Hampshire. First part here being Portsmouth, and the second part will probably be the White Mountains. I'm pretty sure. Capturing some fall color. At least that's the plan. All right, I'll see you then. I'll be back someday.
Well, after leaving Portsmouth, I drove into Maine, through towns like Kennebunkport, Rockland, and eventually settling for the night in Camden. And I wish I could tell you I captured something brilliant along the way, but The truth is I didn't. I had all these ideas, again, planned transitions, voiceovers, even a few emotional beats that I thought I'd hit. I had a script, and I didn't even follow it. Well, as you could see, the drive was beautiful, but I guess I was tired. I was thinking about 100 things. By the time I looked back at the footage, most of it kind of felt like filler, because that's what it was. So instead of forcing something that wasn't there, I think I'm going to share some images, or a few images, a little slideshow from a trip that I took. It was up this same stretch of Maine, up the Maine coast a few years ago. Most of these are from a photo workshop that I took that was being put on by John Paul Caponegro up at his really cool studio up in Cushing, Maine, in various locations, basically along this very route that I was on today. Some are a bit over-processed, a style that has evolved over the years for sure. But it was a different time, and since I didn't capture much this time around, I figured I'd share a few of these. So, well, enjoy, and after that I'll see you up in Camden to close this episode out and put a close on the day. I'll also share a few images from the harbor that I captured shortly after I arrived there. Anyway, I'll see you in Camden. Enjoy the shots.
Do a little window shopping here in Camden, Maine. And let's just say, sometimes you have a good dinner and other times, not so much. Oh well, there's always tomorrow. So yeah, I took a few pictures down by the port tonight. It's really nice. I'm gonna try to get an early morning shot, get up a little higher, get a better vantage point. I don't know how much of it came out. In fact, I don't think much of it came out at all. What I was trying to say was I was window shopping, and I was going to do some B-roll of the windows. And every time I went to say something, I was either in no light or somebody was coming the other way. And it seems like every time I'm recording, somebody comes around the corner from an alley or something. Yeah, so I'm in Camden. I don't know if I even mentioned it. Camden, Maine. We begin our journey here in Maine, and I'm only going to be here for like one more night, but I'm going to try to get up early, maybe photograph the harbor again. I got to figure out how to get a better vantage point. Took some shots tonight around dinner, or right before dinner. Blue hour was really quick. It only lasted like the blue hour lasted like 15 minutes, but I got a few shots. Hopefully we'll get another really cool shot, I hope, of the harbor at sunrise. That's the plan anyway. I'll see you in the morning.